alien? Welcome back. This is week 10 of the $2 beginner poker challenge. I'm turning $2 into $2,000 playing poker online without making an initial deposit. This is last week's graph. I don't have an overall graph due to database issues, but that should be fixed by next week. Last week we were up $35.40. The bankroll total was $200. That is 10% of our way to the $2,000 goal. The win rate was 16 big blinds per 100 hands. Our goal for this week was to work on a tilt plan, which I didn't even do a little bit. I went to Laos this week, so I didn't get much poker time. But Laos was nice. I met some nice people. I went to a circus. I ate a cricket. And there was a casino near my hotel, but they didn't have any real poker, so I didn't play anything. I did manage to get some hands in this week, and I'll show you some of the more interesting ones in a minute. I played strictly NL5 this week. We get Queen Jack suited on the button here. There's a limper, and I'm raising that, pretty standard. And we see a three-way flop. I'm planning to c-bet here with top pair, but big blind donks. It's a pretty significant bet. It's 2/3 pot, multi-way, so I think he's got something good. I'm guessing it's top pair, top kicker, or a set that is scared of the club draw and doesn't want to risk me not c-betting and letting people draw out on him. So I'm just going to fold here. And that guy calls, so let's see what happens. They end up getting it in by the river. So we had a set, and this guy had a club draw. We get a couple limpers, 3 limpers, and I just limp behind. I don't think you should raise here because your hand's not that great, and with all these limpers, you're likely to have a multi-way flop, and I don't really want that with ace-8. So we see the flop 6 ways. The big blind bets out, and over the gun calls here. And I just call. I don't think you should raise here because when you semi-bluff, you kind of want people to fold, and I don't think we're going to get enough folds here. And also we're getting pretty good odds. We're getting 3.3 to 1 to call this, and not quite the 4.2 that we need to hit our flush draw on the next card, but still there's pretty huge implied odds if we do hit. So yeah, we call. We hit the flush. We have the nuts. The big blind bets out again. And I just call. I don't want to raise here. It looks like I have a flush, and I don't really know what he's got. Maybe a set, 2 pair. Maybe he's got a weaker flush. So I just slow play it and call. And he checks to us. He's not looking very strong at this point, so I bet out pretty small. I want him to call. Doing a bigger bet here is not really going to work because the only hand that could call a bigger bet would be a king of spades. So by betting kind of small, I'm just tempting him to call with a weaker hand like a pair or a set. And he calls, turns over 4s, and we take down a nice pot. Here it folds around to us was ace-9 suited. Open that up, get called by the button. Don't really like playing ace-9 out of position, so I just check here for pot control. Yeah, I got top pair. Yeah, the board's a little wet, but I just want to keep the pot small. And villain on the button bets out for 10 cents, which is a quarter of the pot. Really looks weak, doesn't look like he has anything. He's just taking a stab, so I call. He might have a flush draw here, but I can fold if I need to later. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a better ace than I do now because there's only 1 left in the deck. But I check to him anyway because it looks pretty obvious if I bet out. Although it might look bluffy, but just not sure what he has that can call bluff anyways. And he bets out, again, kind of small, less than half pot. Looks weak, and I call. And alright, he keeps betting, so I'm going to check to him and see if he bets out, and he bets out pretty big. I'm thinking missed flush draw. I think he's bluffing, and I got top trips. Can you say that? Top trips? I don't think I've ever heard that before. Anyway, call, queen 7. Pretty poorly played by villain there. I'm not going to talk about his flop and turn bets, but his river bet, he's not going to make an ace fold. And he's got 3rd pair there. He could just check it behind and see the showdown with a pair and maybe win it instead of trying to get a better hand to fold. Anyway, if we take down that pot, here it folds around to the small blind who, it looks like he's trying to steal the blind here. So I call, just intending to take it down on the flop or the turn or something like that. He bets out half pot. To me, that looks like he's got nothing, and I call, and I think I'll just try to take it down on the turn. He bets out really small on the turn. Looks like he doesn't have anything, although he could be getting tricky here. And I raise him, and he calls. So, yeah, I gotta wonder what he's doing. Is he drawing, or does he have a full house here? That completes a straight, and he bets out really small. It looks like either he's got nothing, and he's just a bad player, doesn't know what he's doing, or he's got like a really good hand and he's being sneaky. So I raise, and I think this raise is a bit too big. If he's got nothing, I can probably bet smaller here and take it down. But of course a monster is gonna call or raise me here, and we get raised, and so I just fold. So it looks like he was playing a bit tricky, and well played by villain there. Here it folds around to the small blind, who opens for 12 cents. Now this looks like he's likely just trying to steal the big blind here. A lot of players will do that, and usually I call pretty wide here with roughly 50% of hands depending on the opponent, and just try to take it down post flop in position. And here ace jack is a pretty good hand anyway. Looking at this guy's stats, his attempt to steal is 38, which is pretty high, so that's even more reason to think he's really wide here. So we call that. And villain bets out about 60% of pot. Now because he's so wide here, I don't really think he has a king. I think it's more likely that he missed this flop and he has nothing. If he has a king, he should be betting bigger because there's a flush draw and a straight draw on the board, and he should be trying to protect his hand. He might have a draw, but most likely air. So I'll call, and I'm planning to try to take it down on the turn of the river. There's another king, so it's even less likely that he has a king now, and he bets out less than half pot. It looks really weak. His c-bet's 80, his c-bet turn is 100, his aggression factor is 4, so I'm not surprised that he's barreling here. He might have a draw, but if he's got a king, he should be betting bigger, so there's like no way he has a king here. So I call that. And the river he checks, so maybe he had a draw and he missed it. He probably had air, and I can probably take this down with a small bet, and he folds. Here this guy opens up under the gun for 15 cents, and right away I'm looking at his stats here. He's opening up 12% of hands, so under the gun it should be even tighter than that. I'm putting him on a really tight range here, which is a great situation for set mining, because if you do hit your set and he's got like aces or kings, then you can get paid off pretty well. So I call that, and the guy behind calls, and this guy behind me looks pretty loose, playing 54% of hands. Good flop for us, middle set. Villain bets out, and we just call here, but I think raising is fine, mostly because the guy behind here, he's pretty loose. He could be really wide. There's a lot of flush draws and straight draws in his range right now. I don't think this guy is on a flush draw at all. You know, maybe ace king of clubs, but most of his range consists of big Broadway pairs, or maybe, you know, lower pairs too. Very few suited Broadways in his range here. So by raising, I would be making this guy pay more to draw out, and this guy might fold an overpair, but he could also very likely continue with an overpair. Guy behind us calls. We see the turn three-way. Villain bets out again, and I just call again. Now here, I think he could also raise. This guy's got a $1.88 behind, so if he is drawing, he might just call it off, and the villain might also continue. I wasn't thinking about this too deeply while I was playing. I was kind of scared of the draws, but I just chose to slow play anyway here. So the guy behind us calls again, and we get a brick on the river pretty much. Villain checks, and I bet out about 60% of pot here. Now this could be a bit bigger, and I could get called by an overpair that thinks I have like ace jack or something, but I am a bit worried that smart opponents would just fold an overpair here. But yeah, I do think it should be a bit bigger, at least 295, and the loose guy folds, so it looks like he probably had some kind of draw, and I probably could have got a bit more value out of him on previous streets. And villain calls, turns over queens. You know, this is a big pot, but I think I could have got a bit more value out of it had I raised somewhere along the way. I could have got up to $1 more from him and up to 85 cents more from him. This week we're up $28.59. I'd like to see at least double that next week, and I think it's possible because I'm going to be playing more poker, and I'll be playing better poker too, or at least I plan to. The bankroll total is $236, which is 11.8% of our way to the $2,000 goal. The win rate was 12.9 big blinds per 100 hands. Adjusted for all-in EV, that would be around 15 big blinds per 100 hands. Switching to the other graph here, a few of you have been pointing out that the red line is going up, which indicates aggressive play. You may have noticed some of that aggression in a few of the hands that you just saw. If you want to join me in this challenge, check out evthealien.com for more information. My Facebook and Twitter are both evthealien. Get in touch with me there. Show your love, click like and subscribe, and I love hearing from you guys, so please feel free to comment below. I'm EvTheAlien. See you next week.